Welcome everybody to the Swiss Army Man podcast, episode number 11. This is my first podcast where I have a guest. Super excited to have this guest on. When I started the podcast, I wanted it to be a personal, like open and honest and everything, just be my true self kind of podcast. So I couldn't think of anybody better to have as my first guest than my very own brother, the awesome artist, Jonathan Gordon. John, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
It's been a little bit since we chatted. Actually, we talked last night to set this up, but before that, I hadn't really talked to you since I saw you on vacation. So
that's true.
Yeah, we've both been busy. So I live in Colorado, you live in Virginia. But before we get started down that path, I wanted you to tell everybody kind of like a synopsis of like what you do for your career, because it's a pretty awesome line of work you're in, and it's very multifaceted, as being like kind of basically small business owner, entrepreneur, run the gamut of everything. So please explain some of your, I guess your day-to-day job, what it is, and then also like some of your accolades and things that you've done throughout your career.
Well, by day, I'm a sports artist, so I do sketch cards for custom trading cards and represent my some market companies. So it's freelance artist. I've worked for Topps, I've worked for Upper Deck, worked on Marvel projects, Sony projects, Lucasfilm projects. By night, I do portrait art and commissions, larger scale pieces. I mean, that's about it.
So you're basically in jack of all trades artist. Essentially, you can do a little bit of everything. Yeah, I know. Obviously, from growing up, obviously you've been in my life, my entire life. That you do sports is kind of like where I saw this whole thing start for you. But obviously, you've done pinups and you've done just like kind of like portraits. It's photorealism. That's the style, correct? I mean, photorealistic.
Oh yeah. That's how I draw. Like I always envy artists who can do more cartoonish style. That's like cool and dynamic. But like how my brain sees it, it's more photorealistic. And
I actually like it. I actually really think it's something, as I was thinking about recently, because I know you're not a big Twitter user, but I have a decent following on Twitter, and most of it's coming from doing things for the Pat McAfee show as like little one-offs. I've actually like taken like inspiration sort of from you in that realm of like kind of how to see things and break them down. I probably wouldn't have been able to like look at things and break them down if I hadn't been around you for so long. Because I'm not an artist by trade. That's not what I do, but I do have a creative / business mind. So like I kind of use the same structure to like break things down. How do you break things down in your like because I know obviously you're doing photorealistic stuff, but then you like add these like backgrounds that are like more artsy. Like how do you like when you come to like structure a piece, how does that work for you? Do you think of the background first? Do you think of like what would be cool behind the layover, all that kind of stuff?
So like when I do like a larger portrait, like a pinup that has large background in it, detailed background in it, I usually go with the background first. So like I collect, like I go to thrift stores or I scour online and I find like interior design elements. So like I love my art. I just got like a ton of them sitting on my desk. I'll cut out anything that I see that I like, and then sometimes I like take the idea for like a living room or a kitchen, and I don't like the lamp, and I like a lamp from another thing, and I put the lamp in there. And so it's always like the background first, and then I will go to models who I'm friends with or friends of mine and say, hey, can you do this pose and this specific pose because it allows this much room in the background for me to put the elements where I want to put them.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So you're definitely like, it's almost like composing a shot of like a photo, but obviously you're doing it from like a artistic, obviously like actual like art paint version of it. That's a really neat. I don't think I've ever asked you that question. This is gonna be actually an interesting interview because I don't think we've really talked a ton of art.
I always try to think of it cinematically. So like when they're making a movie and you watch like a Fincher documentary about like him making his movies, like they have like the set director like work on like the set, and then they have like a different person work on the costuming. And so I try to think of it cinematically like that. It's where like this person, even though I'm drawing them still, is just like one screen cap from like a movie.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
That definitely explains like some of the pieces that like are some of my favorites of yours, or like that you've taken from like a movie or something. That explains that, because that's kind of sort of a similar way that I've done mine, is like thinking things are kind of still one at a time, and then like bringing them together. Obviously, mine move when I make like a cartoon or something, but like it is a one at a time. So you have to kind of compose the background to make it like look proper and stuff. So that's actually really cool. Awesome that you think of that. So I guess that just made me think of a question, and you think of it like a set design or like a costume design and like somebody on a film cinematically. Does it ever get like tough for you, because you're also the director in this piece? And then, so like, does it sometimes like you're like, I thought we were headed down this vision, but then it ended up this vision?
There are definitely times where like I pick like even though I pick the background first, I draw the model in first.
Yeah.
And then put the background in. And so there's sometimes where I'll draw the model out and it looks so good kind of on its own that I don't want, and I already had a really busy background plan for it.
You don't want to take away.
Where I'm like, okay. And like, that's why I have next on my desk sitting, like on my desk, I have like full portraits done where they have no background in, because I started with a really busy background, but the portrait itself was so good that if I put the background in that busy, like it would take away from it. So I kind of leave it unfinished.
Yeah.
Until I can figure out what I want to do with it.
Huh. That's interesting. So like, I wonder if I know this is totally just me talking out of my ass, but so I'm left-handed, you're right-handed.
Yeah.
As a lefty, I look at a picture. Like, so if you post a piece of art on your like Instagram, I will look, my eye goes to like, if I'm looking at it so my left back, and then I kind of look at the depth to forward. Do you think an opposite way, from forward to depth, or depth to forward? Like, because your art, especially, like I know, like when I look at it, it's almost like got like a deep texture, even though it's flat.
Yes.
So it's like, I know there's other artists that are like that, and I enjoy those artists. And but like, I think I look from the back to the front. So I don't know if like, as like you look at the artist, if it's like both ways, or if it's like a specific way you kind of look at it.
And see, I'm the same way. Like, just because I love doing the background so much, like, see, the secret is like, I love doing the backgrounds, and I love doing all of that little architectural stuff and the paintings on the wall and the wallpaper, and like I can kind of like go zen when I just do that.
Oh,
and cool. So I would happily just do that. But the problem is if I just posted like these portraits of like these really cool ornate rooms that I've like designed from like other rooms, like no one's following that Instagram.
So like, that's like the niche of the niche.
But if you put like a half naked woman in front of it that like people want to look at, all of a sudden they're like, you've got them in with the half naked woman, and then they're like staying for like the cool architectural stuff in the background.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I mean, I feel like that's definitely like almost like an old school kind of technique, because I'm like, all of the stuff like you see like the Mona Lisa, or like stuff where there's like somebody clearly, but there's stuff going on behind.
Oh yeah,
probably the same mentality.
Exactly. Like, I want to draw that cool landscape, but no one's really gonna look at it.
Yeah, everyone's doing landscapes. No one cares. Yeah. Yeah, so that's awesome. I'm glad we just kind of got off track on that. That was that's I've never asked you that question. I've always meant to like ask you like about that. So that's kind of super awesome. So starting with the actual kind of interview, the first question I did want to ask you, because I don't actually know the origin story. I just kind of know, because growing up, you just kind of like, you were doing this art, and you were like winning art school like art projects, or art, what do they call, art show stuff. You were winning art show awards and stuff, and then you were just doing it professionally. So what led you to this profession was my first question that I wanted to ask you. Like, I know, knowing you, I know like
Yes.
having watching you as a little kid. Remember you always drawing and getting better and doing it all the time. So
It was kind of just like the first thing that took, like, just doing sports art, and then it was like the first thing in adult life that kind of caught on, that like people noticed. So working with minor leaguers, and then like them telling other minor leaguers about my artwork, and then like just getting like that many people wanting my artwork and talking about my artwork, and the it was just like, okay, you're on the right track, so just keep doing the sports art. And then when my first professional, like I had other things like doing book covers and stuff like that, but like my first professional thing was this lawyer from New York who wanted me to do these sketch cards, and they were like basically what I do now, but just of like Muhammad Ali or Michael Jordan. They were just specifically those athletes, and they sold. Like he took the risk on it, and he put them out, and they sold. And I was like, holy shit, people pay for these. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, wow, okay. And then I just thought he kind of had me draw the things he wanted me to draw, and then that was it. And then I was like, well, I'd like to draw these athletes that are younger. Like, I think it was like Jeremy Shockey at the time or something.
Yeah.
And it was like, I want to draw these guys. He's like, well, I have no interest in you drawing. Well, do you mind if I do them just like you do them? And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. So just started doing it out of the bedroom. And like, you did some of the early cards too.
Yeah,
You were the
yeah.
artist
Well, that's why I was laughing because when you said Jeremy Shockey, I do remember that it was like Barry Zito, Jeremy Shockey, like Byron Leftwich, even I think.
Yeah,
but then like, yeah, I was gonna say what were you gonna say?
Oh no! We would just watch Sports Center, hang out and watch Sports Center, and then be like, let's draw this guy, and then we'd sit there and draw that person, and then so they were the card the next day, and they would sell, and
it was absurd. It was nuts. It was crazy because it was the heyday of like the internet exploding, of like you could actually online business could be a thing. And then I like just remember like blowing up. So like we were obviously very big sports fans, and so LeBron James was just hitting the fucking map.
Yes,
high school. And I remember we were like, let's do it. And you drew one version, I drew a version, and we put them out, and it was a hot spot of grading becoming a thing too.
Yes.
And we were the first like kind of cards that like got graded that were like art.
Yes.
Like while he was still in high school.
But
so, yeah,
you're leaving out the fact that like Beckett magazine.
Well, that's where I was leading to it, because that was an interesting. So I went from being like a straight out of like high school, went to college for a short span, hurt myself, came back home, was like, what am I doing with my life? I think you were kind of like, man, this is kind of my thing. Let's figure it out. And I was like, all right, like let's go for the ride.
Together, yeah.
And so like doing that.
Wait. Before we get too far into it, though, do you remember what our other business at the time was?
Burning CDs.
Yes. Like
buying CDs, burning them for our own collection, and then
like
reselling
the artwork was fun and everything, and it was great, and it's led to a career. But at the exact same time, on the exact same like eBay account, me and you would go buy like whatever CDs we wanted. We'd take them in, burn them into our iTunes.
Yeah.
And then like half the time sell them for exactly the same amount we bought them for,
or
if not more.
Yeah. Nuts.
On eBay. And then we were just like shipping out these and just like filling up our it matters, because now you have like Apple Music and stuff like that, and they're all in there. But at the time, we were like, we had this scheme, and we were working.
At the time, you couldn't get, it was working. We were making money, but like that's the thing, is like I remember the LeBron James thing, because it was such a weird flip. It was the first time in my life that I've ever seen anything. So like I obviously watched the work go into the art piece. I watched us make those into cards. I watched us cut those cards. I watched us send those cards off, get graded, and then sell them. And then going into a Kmart that was down the street
Yes.
from our house.
So it wasn't a Kmart. So what happened was
Toys R Us.
it was Toys R Us, and
Okay.
our neighbor had a baby shower.
That's right.
So we were going to get a baby shower gift. Yep. And all of a sudden, like Toys R Us used to have that. It was like it had all sports cards, it had some sports magazines, and they had the special Beckett basketball magazine for LeBron James. Hadn't even played in the NBA yet.
No. And I remember the reason why you picked it up. Do you remember the reason you picked it up?
I don't.
This is going to tell us. This is going to kind of reveal like the age we lived in. We lived through the burgeoning boom of the internet, basically. The reason why you picked up the LeBron James thing in the first place happened to be because you were like, I need more pictures to draw of LeBron James.
Yes, exactly.
Because the internet wasn't as easy to find stuff.
No. Like
it is now.
Like Google, you pop up maybe like this. Like I remember, like at that point, probably you're like on ESPN page 2 or something.
Yeah,
and it has like a small picture, like this tiny.
Yeah,
and you would just pull up. We would draw from. So we would like screen. We would maybe like screen cap that page or something.
Yeah.
Or like I forget how it was. You would click on the image, and the
somehow
image would come up this big, and you're drawing from an image this big that if you blew it up any bit, it was just pixels.
Yeah, just pixels.
So your best option was to like buy a magazine or something or a newspaper.
Yeah,
that had a really good image on it that you could draw from.
Yeah, so that's why you picked it up in the first place. And I remember you flipping through it, and then you were just like, Tony. And I'm like, what? I think I was looking at like McFarlane action figures or something, probably, most likely, because that was the time frame. And like, I was like, what? And you were like, dude, look at this. And you flipped it open, and it was like top collectibles, like a list. And
my company is AOJ Litho.
AOJ Litho.
Still today.
And the top two are literally
alphabetical order.
R2 cards in the Beckett, which, by the way, we were big trading card fans growing up. We did shows, all that kind of stuff.
Beckett is literally why I started doing sports art. Is the first page of the Beckett, the inside cover was always artwork.
Yeah.
And I was like, I would love to be on that one day. And then sure enough, like
we're in Beckett.
I'm probably like 20 and you're probably like 18 at that point.
I think I was literally 19 years old, maybe.
Yeah, and I was like 21. Like it was just like
it was like this. So we find that
these cards, which we thought at that point, like we were making tons of money because like I remember we had like an Amari Stoudemire.
Yeah.
And I just remember like I remember one night where we're cruising through Walmart in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
To buy our CDs.
Yeah.
And we're just laughing to each other because we're making so much money. Because we're sitting there, we're making like $200-$300 a night just doing these cards.
Exactly.
And so we're like, we're still living at home. We're 21, 19. We're like, we had no bills. We're just like rolling in it. Like me and you we're like Rick Ross or something. Like,
dude, we might as well have been. Yeah.
And it riding around your Jetta and like,
yep.
And we were just like, this is the life. Like, this is what we're gonna do the rest of our lives. Like, this is great.
For sure, yeah. It was wild.
And so we thought we were making a lot of money then. But then, like, the minute that magazine drops, and we have like this stack of like graded cards that I'd sent off to get graded.
Like they were limited edition because we made a certain run.
Yes.
But we literally had like all but maybe 10 of them left.
Yes. Like we had just started it.
Yeah, we had just started.
We had just started it, and we were doing them like one a day. So
to kind of see how we were kind of trying to gauge the market on like if one was up, like what we could like what we could get bid up to.
Right, and so we were doing them. I think like 3-day auctions. And like, we were putting them up like one every like 3 days or something like that. Mm-hmm. So we had the benefit of the fact that we were not deep in either of those runs.
No.
So we immediately put those up, and started putting them up like 2 a day or something.
Yeah.
And they were selling at like $250 a piece.
A piece, like literally
each piece.
Yeah.
So it got to the point where like at one point like we couldn't sell them fast enough, and we had so many people like wanting them.
Yeah.
That we were selling. Moving close to $1,000 worth of trading cards a day.
Easy. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like we went from like just skittering laughing in the store at like making like $200 a night to like making $1,000 a night
Yeah.
overnight and not having a clue what to do with it.
Yeah.
So I remember us going to the mall and just buying like stupid like new shoes,
A lot of new shoes.
a lot of new shoes, a lot of new guitars. Like
yeah. My entire guitar collection was definitely bought off the back of LeBron James. Yes.
I bought like a Yoo-Hoo, or like a lot of belt buckles for some reason.
A lot of,
like,
dude, yeah, belt buckles,
belt buckles
hats,
at the moment.
Hats, belt buckles,
like
t-shirts. Like I don't think I washed clothes for like 2 years.
No, because we just bought like every single t-shirt.
I was just like, I need a new shirt. Like, I'll just go buy one.
Right.
So, totally stupid of us to not like have any foresight of like banking. I banked some of it, but like
the amount of times that I think back and I'm like, oh man, we could have managed the money a little bit better in those early years.
Yeah. No, it was nuts though. But that was like literally one of the first things, the best experience probably that happened to me that young is like I watched a business form and blow up. Like,
yeah,
just like, and like we were like stuffing the envelopes, we were like listing everything, we were like making the product. It was like a 2-man show, man. Like watching Mallrats, Dazed and Confused, like all those movies like 7,000 times while we're like doing everything, like watching Sports Center
and just
nuts. It was nuts.
Yeah,
like going to Denny's at 2:00 at night, bumping Tegan and Sarah records.
There was no. Like it was a complete blur because there was like no line between like working and hanging out.
No,
we just hung out like while we're watching like whatever new movie we just bought on DVD.
Yeah, that we were.
That was the thing. It was like also the height of DVDs. So when we were buying the CDs and stuff, we'd buy like whatever 4 new DVDs came out.
Yeah, we'd watch them, and we'd watch them and then sell them.
Right, and we just pop them in, and we would just watch these new DVDs.
Yeah,
and the TV was set up in like it was in my room, and like the TV was set up in the corner. Computer's sitting right here, so we're handling the auctions and shipping out everything.
Yeah,
and then we have like the futon over here, and like one of us is drawing, one of us is handling the auctions and the orders, and we're both watching TV at the same time.
Yeah,
and we would like only leave when we were like hungry. We'd go to Denny's or something. Or go to the mall and hang out if we needed to like walk around a little bit.
Oh yeah, it was a crazy experience. I mean, just like we
were hustling,
dude. Like it's funny because like I like the age of the entrepreneurs like right now. Like I just knew a lot of Gary V and a lot of flipping things. And he was like, I started out, my thing was trading cards, and then he went into his dad's liquor store, like wine store, and like realized people collect wines, and he blew up, and obviously he's worth millions now. But like that's what he talks about, and he's still like, he just did a trading card show, like just for the fucking fun of it. Basically, he was like, this is like my roots. Like I love this shit. Like, and it's like I think there's so much that was like came out of that generation. Like of us, like there was so much, like we were essentially like little stockbrokers, but our stocks were like these little cardboard cards.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like it was like so absurd. And then we'd even do shows. We would go do shows and we would sell the cards at the shows.
Yeah.
For like a big amount. Like,
and the great thing for me was like, at that point I realized like, okay, it's kind of like you were talking about with stockbrokers and these trading cards are stocks. But I don't have to wait to pull out a card that's limited. Like I could create something, and because the art's so good, like I can. And like I look back at the art, it's awful. Like compared to what I do now, like the art.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. So like that, we're talking when this is like all booming, 2001, 2002. You're talking 17 years. You've put together a career, like your career is longer than some artists that have like been like world renowned for millenniums at this point.
Like I was sitting there and I was thinking about it, and like it was 2019. No, 2000. So it would have been 2000, I think, when I launched AOJ with the cards.
Yes, for sure.
And we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of AOJ with the cards.
Yeah.
Me doing them continuously and now it's all sketch cards. Like there's no printed cards.
Yeah.
Everything.
See, that was the thing. That was the other thing. So like a lot of those were just prints.
Right. The cards. We would do the artwork on a bigger scale, like larger, like 11 by 14, 11 by 17.
And then we design them onto a card, which is like
Design
also
them.
like the thing that we both love is like the backgrounds. And I think we got that from sports cards.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like Skybox, like the early Skybox cards
Yeah.
were like, and like the way that the Fleer were designed, like with the background and with the back that having the little wooden heart.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like those definitely like the design sense comes from
Yeah.
sports cards and yeah.
For sure. And it's crazy because we share that. We both definitely like grew up in that era, like of like we were both. And it's funny because I don't think we've ever talked in depth about that. But like literally, like I think part of what drew us to collecting a certain card or a certain like set was the design piece of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah, so like it's crazy that like what we kind of do now, like what I get noticed for. I'm not obviously my regular day job, but like the thing I get noticed most for is like the random design of things. And now it's like yours is obviously as being an artist, what you've done for like years and like,
Oh yeah, definitely
ridiculous. So like, yeah, it's just a crazy. I can't believe it's been 20 years almost. Holy
like, and you don't need to play down your creativity because like your cards were like as good as my cards.
Oh
like,
no, my art was not anywhere near yours.
Oh, it was. And
like,
and as good as your art was, like if you stuck with it, like you would have been able to work at Top Upper Deck as well. Like it's.
I mean, maybe I don't.
It was great.
I don't know. You were the goat. It was like one of those things where I was like, I don't want to chase down the goat for the rest of my year, like the rest of my life, like. And I would have. I think I would have. I would have been like, there's that. Who's the comic book? What's the comic book equivalent? There's like brothers that do it, right? There's I can't think.
Oh yeah, like there's the Kubert brothers, but they're kind of both equal. But like you didn't want.
But like, there's definitely one that's like got like a little more clout.
Right. Like you didn't want to be the Ozzy Canseco to my Jose Canseco.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, but actually, the funny thing is this is how I operate as a human being. I don't like being, and this is part of the reason why I hate like what I hate about sports and what I will argue random things about is I hate the recognition of someone who's not as good as the other person. And so honestly, that's almost what I worried about worse was surpassing you in like just the collective consciousness of people, but having to be like, I am nowhere near as good. What the fuck is wrong with you people? Because that's how I operate.
It is shocking that I've had the career that I have had because like you know me and I'm probably the worst promoter of myself.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we just talked about that when I was on vacation.
I'm the worst promoter of like I have a Twitter and I promoted my Twitter today on Instagram,
nice.
Like on my stories, but like I was like, follow me if you want to, but like I have like an annual tweet.
Yeah.
Where I remember my Twitter password. And I'm like, and my tweet is always like, oh, by the way, guys, I do artwork. Here's my Instagram.
Nice. Well, at the end of this, one of my last questions is where people can find you. So we're gonna wrap all of that up, and
it's literally just Instagram because like Instagram stays signed in, so I can't forget the password because that's how bad I am at like social media and like promoting myself.
Dude,
like,
I am like that too. We're talking me and the wife are talking about getting a new phones and giving our daughters the phones, and our old phones. And I'm like, I'm afraid to get a new phone because I don't remember any of my passwords.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm like, I don't know if I can log back in.
And that's me. Like, I literally, I ask my wife all the time. I'm like, baby, what's our Netflix password? What's our Amazon password?
Yeah. I have no clue. I don't know any of them. I have none of my passwords. Oh man, this is like literally my favorite. I'm so glad we started with you because literally we have so much that like our obviously our stories run because we've lived a lifetime together. But like just like hearing you talk, it's like it's so much fun to watch you like kind of go through your career, which is awesome too because
it's a really unique relationship because the way we moved around.
Like, yes.
As military kids, the way we moved around as military kids, like we always had each other and we always kind of had like the same interests. So like we spent more time together, I think, than most brothers. Like,
oh, for sure.
So, and so much, even though we had like those years of difference. Yeah. Like we were always watching or collecting or, we were always doing the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether it was wrestling or
Oh yeah.
movies or action figures.
Yeah.
Like we were doing the same thing. So like every memory I have, like so like a little bit of a like thing that I've noticed in life is like my wife, her sister's 8 years younger than her.
Yeah.
So you can't. So they don't have like a lot of her stories are just her doing things.
Yeah.
And I realized like every single one of my stories, whether it's like grandpa taking us to like campus and like throwing us in dumpsters
Yeah.
at Michigan State campus, and like
By the way, letting everybody know, our grandfather was like the guy who went and unlocked all the doors and like cleaned up a
oh yeah,
bunch of
because that
stuff at
just
Michigan
started really
State.
random. Like, oh, grandpa just took us to this
Yes.
campus and threw us in a dumpster. Like
Our grandparents met on the campus of Michigan State University. Both our grandparents on my mom's side worked there for their careers. That was it. And our grandfather was like one of the most awesome dudes ever, and our grandma's awesome as well. But like our grandfather, we connected to. So this is actually one of my questions. Now it's a great time. So like I have my tattoo. I have my Detroit Lions tattoo.
Oh yeah.
You do too as well. We have matching tattoos. My brother showing some of his dumbness, as you can see if you're watching, real kind of life scale. His is like 3 times bigger than mine. The story that I gather is when you went to get it, you told me this story. You thought mine was much bigger than
I did. Because you're like, I got mine. You're like, I got mine on my upper arm.
Yeah. I had space to fill though. Like I had a little. It was just I had to fit it in that space. Yeah. So yeah.
You were like, oh, I got mine on my upper arm, and so in my head, I'm like, oh shit,
fucking yeah.
Right, and so I'm like, I got to even that out. Like, how am I gonna do that? So I was like, well, I'll get the back of my forearm.
Because you are much more tatted up than I am. I have quite a few, but you have a lot.
I think you might have more than me at this point now.
I don't know. You want to do a random count?
1, 2,
3, 4, 5, 6,
4,
7,
5.
8.
I got 5.
8. I have 8.
6. I got 6. So
yeah,
6.
but you have like your entire chest done.
Well, my entire chest is done. Yeah.
So that's one big piece. So you probably have more skin. You probably have more percentage of your body taken out.
Probably. Yes.
So yeah, going there with our grandfather.
So our grandfather worked on MSU. He unlocked all the doors. He could take us to like the ice rink and where they played hockey, and he could just take us all around. But he took us one day and he said, "Boys," and he like grabbed us and our cousin Davey.
Yeah.
Takes us and throws us into the van.
Yeah.
And he said, "Guys, we're going to campus." And we're like, "Okay, cool." And what happened was he had heard from his friends in janitorial that the university had just thrown out a bunch of their old like practice jerseys for basketball, for football, a lot of their equipment, so like cleats and all that stuff, and exactly what big dumpster it was in.
Yeah.
So he takes us out there. No one's out there, and then my grandpa's a big man, like a pretty big guy.
He was what, 6'3", 6'4"?
Probably about 6'3", probably about 6'3", and like he was a bulky man.
Yeah.
And so he just takes us, and we're just like, boom, put our feet down. He just chucks us into the dumpster. Doesn't tell us what we're there for, and he's like, "Guys, what do you see?" And we're looking around. And we're like, "Holy crap! It's all this Michigan State football stuff, like these football jerseys that are like at the time, like." I remember us wearing them as like pajamas.
I still have mine.
Yeah, and they're like they were at the time, like they'd go all the way down to our ankles. Like that's how. So, and we didn't know. So I remember like I was holding up like a jock support, like a cup, and be like, "What's this? What's this, Grandpa?" And Grandpa's like, "Put that down and don't tell Grandma or your mom that you hadn't touched it."
Yeah.
And then like we got like these football jerseys. I think we got a pair of cleats that we ended up never doing anything with because they were like just massive.
Size 27.
And then like the basketball jerseys. I think they were the women's basketball jerseys, and they weren't like practice jerseys. They were the
actual jerseys. Yeah,
women's. I wish I still had them, but like they were like the women's basketball jerseys.
Yeah, I have I think the picture that I gave so I've known my wife since we were 12. The picture I gave my wife when we moved is a picture of me shooting a basketball in my Michigan State jersey. She still has it to this day. So it's like, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, that was the kind of thing that we would do. And like, I was just thinking about how every single one of my stories, like you're there.
Yeah, yeah,
and how lucky we were in that way, because we, like, at the time there's a lot of like different feelings towards being military brats and moving around.
yeah.
But as an adult, like, we have, like, if we lived in the same town all the time, you would have your group of friends, I'd have my group of friends with
Oh,
us
for
that much
sure.
of an age group.
Yeah,
And like, yeah, oh, this is my little brother, and like, now we can not talk for like a half a year,
yeah,
pick up and talk, and like, we're still like this
yeah.
because like we had the same life.
I mean, essentially, yeah. Like it's like living a Matrix version of like I can watch you do something, and I'm like I know it led you to. I can almost like
Right.
deconstruct some of your thought process on something. Like if you go do something,
Up
which is
until you were
also
about 16
yeah,
and I was about 18, like, we lived the exact same like childhood, basically.
basically yeah, essentially yeah, and yeah, and it led to us. We have slight variances in our personality, which has
Yeah.
led to us being in fist fights
Yes.
and you slamming my head into a plate glass window and locking me out of the house because I was playing Mountain Dew bottles on the freaking fireplace.
I like that you're leaving out any of the things you did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I started the fist fight. I punched you first, so that was
Yes,
on me.
exactly.
That was on me. I mean,
Exactly.
but like we had those things, and like we probably stressed our mom out to the max because like we would. I remember my head hitting the plate glass window, and mom being like, "What? That you're gonna kill him?" And like it was like gonna be like, and then like 30 minutes later, we were playing like NBA Live on like the PlayStation or something.
I'll listen to like wrestling podcasts now, and they'll like talk about like about how like, oh, their workload's so rough because like they gotta like wrestle uh like 20 matches a month or something like that. And it was like we would wrestle, like we would do like 20 matches a day.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we put the two matches together, and we're like working like full matches. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. We had that same brain though. Like we would run full like NBA leagues in our basement, like full court.
yeah, we would.
With like on fake hoops. Like well, not fake hoops, we had real hoops. We had like the real like Nerf hoops. But
And we had the Nerf hoop on each side of the basement. And
yeah,
like
yeah.
the way the basement was split.
We taped
right down
off.
the
We
middle.
taped it off. We taped
it off. We took like the masking tape and we taped the actual court. And we had like a full court, and we're going back and forth.
Yeah.
And I remember us like sweating. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
how we
yeah.
got through the winters in Nebraska.
It was nuts. Yeah.
Was you can't go outside, so we're just in the basement literally for like 15 hours that day.
Mm-hmm.
And now, as I think about it, as like parents, like having kids of my own, I'm like, man, we must have been the best kids, because like we would literally like wake up,
Disappear.
go into the basement, just disappear.
Yeah.
And like, except for when we'd get in fights and throw shit at each other because like one of us cheated.
Oh yeah, yeah.
For sure. Like outside of that, like we would disappear for like weeks on end, and like our parents could have done like whatever the hell they wanted. Like
I'm sure they did. I mean, I literally don't know like what they did. I mean, dad hunted, and mom was probably like stressed out that like her kids were like would fight. And it would take mom a long time to come down from the stress of that. So she's probably dealing with like the last time we fought for like a week. For sure.
Like, we were very self-sufficient kids.
We were.
But whether it was that or us like running like on Coach K, like running our own.
Oh my God.
Even when there was no functionality for it in the video game.
There was no tournament set up.
To have like a tournament. So
we would write them down.
Take on a notebook and write down the tournament. And out the tournament.
It's the reason I have notebooks to this day.
Yes. And so like we would just do stuff like that, and like between me and you, and like again, that's something I've come to find out that like isn't everyone's childhood.
Yeah, we thought it was normal.
Me and you were always waking up every morning and kind of like Phineas and Ferb.
Yeah,
like we were
basically
thinking,
essentially.
Sweet, what are we gonna do today? And then like it was this grand plan of like, cool, we're gonna try to build a go-kart out of like.
Oh my God, I forgot about the go-kart.
We're gonna go get some like lawnmower wheels and try to attach them to a plank and like
Well, to be fair, and I'll give all credit to mom. Mom was like very much like we would be like, "Yo, we're gonna build this thing." Mom would just take us and be like, "There's $20. Go
here's $20. Go here you go. Let's try to figure this out today." Right. Like she supports our complete idiocy, but like
idiocy. Yeah, which is part of why we are who we are, the humans we are today. But
right. Or like, hey, let's take our GI Joes and put on a pay-per-view with our WWE ring, and we want to make it look real and have like the walk-up ramp. So let's take all the VHSs in the house,
line them up,
line them up,
Oh,
and
dude, it was
build like
so
this
great.
little like stadium around it.
Dude, we
And like,
would. Yeah.
and that's what we would do. And then like take our GI Joes and like make out our own little like card for the event, and like
Yeah. We had running champions. It was like nuts. It was crazy that like looking back on it and the way we structured a lot of that stuff, like very organizationally, and like, but nothing was like out of bounds. Like the creativity was just like
no,
whatever we
yeah,
could imagine doing, we would just do. Like,
yeah. We were like, well, I want to play a tournament on this game. Oh, it doesn't have that functionality, and they're like, instead of being like, oh, okay, well, whatever, that game sucks. Like we're just
yeah.
like, cool. Let's find a way to jerry rig it to where like let's find a way to
Yeah.
rig it to make it work.
Oh yeah. Like I remember we'd have it like written down. It'd be like Syracuse versus UConn, and I'd be like, Ray Allen had 34 points and John Wallace had 12. Like it was like
Yeah.
we'd keep these running totals. Like I can tell you to this day, I was 198-0 with UMass on that game because we kept records. I never lost with UMass. Not one time.
And the only time I could ever get you close was with Oklahoma State.
That's right, because Big Country was the beast on that game.
Yes, like Big Country could like sometimes almost foul out Marcus Camby, and I could get kind of lucky.
But then I had Lou Rowe shooting threes. It was the best. No, but those, like the fact that we just have that little exchange right there is the most ridiculous conversation probably ever on a podcast, that we remember that. I was 11, 12.
You're the only person where I can not talk to you. Like you said, we didn't talk before except for the vacation, and before that probably like 6 months.
Yeah. It'd been a while because like I had a lot.
We'll shoot each other like our FanDuel, like whatever we're doing on FanDuel or something like that, and like be like, hey, what do you think about this roster? But like
it's almost like a drive by. It's almost like we drive by. It's like like we'll knock off like 10 texts in a row, and like we'll just won't. Then someone will just stop texting, and it'll just stop, and then it'll just pick up like 3 months later.
But like me and you can pick up at any point.
Yeah,
and it's just like, and like Nia's got to see that. My wife got to see that for the first time during the vacation, and she was just oh my god, you two together, like it's just like this, and like you just like pick up, and you're like boom right there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's it's like one of those things where it's like you have this bond, and it's like you're the only person. I'm very, and I know you're very much this way too. We are both people you could throw in a room and we can chat up anybody, and people be like, oh my God, you're so social. But we're probably both really extreme loners.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, but I think the only
which we're in our own head.
Yeah.
The levels like at where like we're off thinking about, we're sitting in the room with someone, but we're thinking about something and still creating in our head the same way we were thinking when we were kids about like, I want to do this, but I don't want to do it in the conventional way. I want to do it like, there's really like no safe way to explain that to someone who's probably more normal.
Yeah. No, we definitely probably seem off.
And so with me and you, when we're together, like, and we're thinking about like, oh, let's do this and let's do this in this way and this, like, with me and you, there's like no judgment in a way.
Oh yeah.
It's because like, we're both like, oh yeah, I see why you want to do that. I know why you're thinking about doing it that way, and that's actually makes really good sense to me.
Yeah, no, a lot of that time that's how it works. Like, is like we have this like very equal sensibility, and then like if we look at things, that's why like I think over the years while we've been separated in different areas, like if I see you do something that seems off to me, that's usually when I check in with you. It's because I'm like, why are you thinking that? Like that's if I can't rationalize in my brain, and I'm sure it's probably the same for you because I know I've gotten texts from you where you're like,
oh yeah, because you're like the person who probably most thinks like me.
Yeah. And I don't think we think probably much like anyone else that I've ever met. I've never met anyone who thinks in a way that I think, like in a structure. Because I think a lot of what I think I've probably never even expressed to anybody, because like the way I get to it, there's like, if there was a step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I'm probably like 1, 6, 10, 12. Like,
and that's for the good and for the bad. Like me and you can like sit here and both be like, oh, it's really cool that we think alike and all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Definitely, there's a lot of times where I like see people like manage life easier, especially now that like we're both approaching like we're like our late 30s and 40s and getting in the 40s, and like you're just like, man, like it's cool that I think the way I do, and I have a genius level intelligence, and like
I don't know if I do,
like,
but
and you have to think, and I've been tested, and like you just you can. It's cool that we think that way, and
Yeah.
then we've had the experience that we've got to, and like I've got to be a professional artist. I got to work with Upper Deck and Tops. And
All right, so we had at a point we had a bad internet connection there for a second, so we are going to slip back right into where we were, and that's with John talking about how some people function better as adults because of the way they think.
yes, definitely. I think we had more creative childhoods, but like sometimes as an adult, it's easier to just kind of like think along the normal path than just not think out of the box. It kind of gets you a little bit further.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, anytime you think along the normal path, there's a reason why it's normal, right? But I think, it's gonna be tough because I think people have normal thought processes and they do things in a way that like is probably the more norm. So they have a more boring but probably better trajectory. But I think, much like I stated a couple minutes ago, I think like most people think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 1, 5, 10, 12. I think I can make up for that gap. So it may be like I may be like this, but then I go and like they are like this, a little bit more slight steady, but we can catch up and get in the same spot. So it's a kind of weird the way you think of things. Also, I think certain things become possible when you don't think along that more route of mainstream.
Oh, definitely. Like especially in like the field of art, like uh, some of the things that I do with my artwork, specifically like so we haven't never talked about it, but with my markers, like specifically,
Yeah.
I work entirely with markers, just these tiny little like chroma markers. Before that, I worked with
shout out. I was gonna say shout out your company that you sponsor.
So Chroma sponsors me.
Shout out Chroma, awesome stuff. You showed me when you were there. You had just gotten them. They looked awesome.
At Chroma NYC on Instagram. Their markers are great. So previous to me working with Chroma, I worked with Copic. So these markers are alcohol-based ink.
Yeah.
So they can work a little bit like watercolor. They blend with each other. There's no markers that you can compare to them. But like if you go to Michael's, they're $9 per marker.
Yeah.
They're really expensive. You can buy refills, but you have to know where to go get the refills.
Yeah.
So really, like the only way it's even sane to work with Copic markers is if you're a professional artist.
Yeah.
Because it's the only way it's paying for itself. Like it's not really a hobbyist marker. Well, Chroma decided to jump into the game, and they do a marker very similar. I think the ergonomics of it is a little bit better, but they do the exact same thing. You can blend them. They're alcohol based. The nibs are great. But anyway, when you work with them, they're built kind of to do like anime artwork.
Okay.
So really cartoony artwork with a slight little blend. So like how sometimes in anime they have like blushing.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Nobody before me was doing these photorealistic portraits.
Well, I've seen what you've done with them, so there's no from before to now. There's no drop off.
And so what you're supposed to do, right? So if you're laying out a face, like you would put down the lightest peach color, and you would then put like the pink over top for the blushing cheeks, and you would put in the darker colors after that, and that's how you're taught to do the markers. I started doing them the way I was doing colored pencils. And I used to always work with colored pencils. Then my hands got to the point where they were like breaking down because of how much I was using colored pencils.
Yeah.
So I needed to switch to markers and started with Prismacolor markers. They weren't doing quite what I wanted them to do.
Yeah.
And then I was told about these, and I told about the Copics. I tried the Copics, and so what happens is when you use those markers, like I didn't watch. I purposely kind of like you were talking about how we skipped those steps. I skipped the step of watching a tutorial.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I just bought these markers. I'm just gonna draw with the markers. I'm just gonna go and see where it takes me.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know I was fucking up my markers. I didn't know I was taking these really expensive markers and I was kind of breaking them.
Yeah.
But I would take the dark brown marker, put it down first, kind of like you would with a color pencil.
Yeah.
And then you would take the lighter color and kind of work into that color,
Okay.
pull it out with like the lighter color,
Yeah.
and then you'd have like all of these tones in between. You could do that
Oh
with
yeah,
colored
yeah,
pencil, but nobody was doing that with Copic markers.
yeah, yeah.
And I was like, well, let's just see if it does it. So I'd put in the darker color. And if you work really fast, you have to keep the markers in your hands. So that color is still wet.
Yeah.
And so I work really, really fast. And I'll just go pull off the next color, go in, pull it out, and then pull it out with another color and pull it out with another color until you have like all of these tones in a face. And you basically work it like a watercolor.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
And nobody else was doing this. And like I have Copic really quick started featuring my artwork on their Instagram.
I remember that, and that was a big deal for you.
Up. Like I went to like having like 100 people following me to like now it's like I think like 17,000 people following me.
17.4, I believe, is what I saw this morning when I looked at your Instagram page.
And so what happened was like you ended up getting like so many messages underneath like how this isn't done with Copic. This isn't done with Copic. Like people were like, "This why are you guys featuring this? This clearly wasn't done with Copic. Like you can't do this with Copic."
Yeah.
Or like, and then people would be like, "How are you doing this with Copic?"
Yeah.
And I resisted doing like a how-to video for a long time because like I kind of had the secret and like I was the only one doing this. But then like there were some artists who I saw who were like really good and couldn't figure it out, and I started giving away the secret to like other young artists who I saw that I a little bit of me in.
Yeah.
But you work dark to light, and you work it more like colored pencils or like watercolor pencils or watercolor. And if you do it that way, the markers will do that portrait, but you blow through the markers like 10 times.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like you're not, these things are like race cars of marker of like art supplies. And I'm like using them like they're like a monster truck that like I'm trying to like,
you're like gas, you're just blowing all the gas out. You're like,
right. I'm like at a demolition derby with my markers and like these race cars. Like it's just like pull up a Bugatti into like a demolition derby.
Yeah.
But they work, and then you get these like really, really realistic portraits. Like I'm just doing like these sketch cards right now, and like,
yeah, I mean that's nuts. Yeah, it's just that kind of stuff is amazing. Is that Lamar? That's Lamar Jackson, right? On top.
That's Lamar Jackson on top.
By the way, just so you know, at home, it looks just like Lamar Jackson. And my box that I'm like literally looking at him in is like a size of like less than like a nickel. So that's how realistic it looks.
That Javier Baez's face is like the size of a nickel.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm saying from on my. Well, yeah, that is true. I didn't even think of that. I'm talking about. I didn't even know who that was. I'm saying you didn't tell me, and I'm looking at your little box screen that I'm like talking to you in, and it's like the size of a nickel, and I can tell you that whole portrait. So I can tell you that's who that is. Just by looking at it. So if you're not watching and you're listening to the podcast, just know that it's awesome, amazing stuff. Like,
yeah, but that's and that's all like just learning. And that was from the Chroma. Do it from a two. And much the opposite. Like if I did a tutorial, if I watched, that's where your logic of like us skipping those steps. I literally wouldn't be able to do what I did as an artist if I had watched a tutorial and
use them properly.
Done it the way that I was supposed to properly use the marker.
Yeah, I believe that's called breaking a mold. That's what typical like that would be like anybody who's like does anything kind of out of the box in anything like sports or whatever. It's like sometimes you need the people who are going to do the things that are going to average people are going to know, but then you kind of need those people to like kind of push it, whether they know they're pushing it or not, but be able to just be like, this is how I'm going to do it because that's how my brain works.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, and that's how our brain works, and that's how it's like, you know, if I break down like how I make a cartoon, and my cartoons are nowhere near where I envision them going. Like I think they'll get better and better. That's why I haven't put one out in a while, is because I'm trying to get more. Make it more kind of make my own style. I want my own style. I want my little like signature touch on it. And so like I've been putting off doing them. I've put some together, but I'm like, they're not exactly what I want. So I'm not just going to release them. So like I'm going to make it where it's my signature touch, which is what you do. You have a signature touch. And like, I think that's like, you almost have to fail, which this leads to one of the questions I didn't send you before, which was going on one. Is when was a time that you failed but you learned exponentially from it. Is there anything you have that like is like that where you're like, this piece of art I'm going to do direct this way, and then you failed so hard at it, but it taught you so much more that got you almost more benefit out of it? Anything you can
Uh,
think of? Or is it
there's
or for you,
there,
are they smaller? Are they like, oh, I thought like this, like I'm gonna do this portrait, and then like we were talking earlier, you did this portrait, but then you forced the background in, and then you like had to learn like don't force the background in, because if it's not.
probably my biggest failing that like I still struggle with, but like has kind of figuring out how to deal with that problem. It has helped me is time is like management and management of my brain. So like a lot of times I can do the sketch cards on autopilot.
Yeah,
It's just you're watching sports, you know what athletes are hot right now. That's what you're doing. You're drawing those.
yeah, because you're doing like a marketing almost in a sense too, because you're dealing with like an ad agency. You're like, who's hot, because that's gonna increase stuff.
Right. So yeah, you're always having to watch. The product's better if you watch sports. You don't have to
Yeah,
watch sports, but like listening to sports podcasts, watching sports, you know what athletes are like at the peak of like conversation at that moment. And so you, that's a large part of the job. But at
yeah,
the same time, because it's so uninteresting to me, because it's kind of autopilot. Because like I'm drawing the same athlete a lot of times, 4 or 5 times in a month,
yeah,
and it's been the day job for 20 years now.
yeah,
I'm thinking of like this big portrait that I want to do,
yeah,
and and then I'm not able to, because of the sports cards that are so in demand. I'm not able to do that portrait all in one day like I'd want to do,
yeah.
or in 2 days like I'd want to do, and like it sits there for a little while, and then I get another idea, and so it's been ideal management,
Oh, okay, yeah, makes sense.
and so a lot of my failure has come from having a really cool idea and to sit there for a little bit, like
Okay,
getting too
so
many
so
steps
almost like
ahead.
being able to like,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
and so like I've just had to
So almost like
learn.
running yourself off a cliff. You're almost like you have to like keep yourself on the ledge. So you got to almost
Yeah,
have to slow down, which, as we've just detailed, is tough for the way we think.
yeah, and so I've had to really had to learn how to like, if I'm thinking of a project, um, lay out the planning of that project, keep it somewhat organized so I can bounce back into it if I want to. Um, Keep better notes about projects that I want to work on,
Okay.
and then stay focused on the sports art when I'm working on the sports art. Because if
Yeah.
not, like you're always working at half speed because your brain is off somewhere else,
Yeah.
and so it's just
So that took us through. You were talking about obviously like ideal management and thinking through that. So that's like one of the things that you're like you're learning as you go, which is honestly like I think very helpful probably to younger artists, because I think younger artists you might think through like they have all these ideas, but it's okay to like so like in my form, I'll speak kind of like on both of our parts here. It's like I have probably like 4 cartoons probably in the can. They're done. I could release them, but
yeah.
I'm not, because I don't like them. So like I would much rather put all the time into relearning. So like the lesson I learned was I went through the reps of doing it, and now that's going to lead me to a better product later on. So like don't be in such a rush necessarily.
Yeah, and same thing here. Like I've just recently started to do pieces ahead of time and keep them kind of in the can.
Yeah. Which I mean
Just
is important.
it is, especially with me doing the sports art. So like on the Instagram where it's kind of like my artistic portfolio
Yeah.
in a way is how I use it, and like that's my artistic voice. Is I don't post a lot of the sports art stuff. I don't, like the day job stays separate from that.
Yeah.
So people will think, "Oh, John's not working," or I wonder why John's not drawing." And I'll be drawing, but I'm doing sports art nonstop for like 2 weeks, and then like
Yeah.
nothing gets posted on the Instagram. So it's not that I disappeared and just stopped doing artwork. I was doing artwork, just a different kind of artwork.
Yeah, and you have a crowd that's kind of like that sort of. So like the sports art almost like is like seen as like not necessarily as like artistic.
Correct.
And so like which is bullshit because it's like super artistic, but it's like the artistic of like let's do like and I guess that's just the way it's always been. Sports art has typically been almost like a lower tier. It's like a kind of niche-y kind of thing that hasn't been seen as like the pinnacle of art. Like you don't see like sports art in museums.
No, and the reason I'm able to do as good of a portrait as I can do right now, like on a larger piece, is because I'm doing these like micro portraits, and I'm doing like 6, 8 of them a day sometimes, and like have been doing that for 20 years now. So doing all these little micro portraits when you work on a bigger portrait, it's so much easier.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The art is the same for me. It's just, but if you post it on your Instagram, that's all more artistic.
Yeah,
you would lose a lot of followers. Like,
but that's the thing, right? It's like a museum in a sense of it. This is like the closest I've seen, because I know people will talk about curating their social media and all that kind of stuff. But like curating, I always think of museums and art museums in general, and like you're basically curating that line for it. That's what it is, even though you're doing all this other stuff, which is super awesome. And I mean, your art stuff is some of my favorite stuff I've ever seen in my entire life. So I absolutely love that. Speaking of that, wanted to one of the questions I'm going to rephrase one of the questions that I sent you. It was going to be like 3 most influential people or whatever, but like, what are your like 3 favorite artists all time? Like that, like, because I know for you, and I know I don't know if they're the same now, but I know some of your past favorite artists that you've liked, and your stuff is nothing like theirs.
No.
So it's kind of very interesting. Like I don't think people would key in if they saw you and be like, "Oh, yours favorite artist must be blah." Like they're not. Like,
and it's funny because like some of the artists, professional artists who follow me now, and they're like, "Oh, your art's like some of my favorite artwork." Their artwork is completely like animation style, and it's not anything approaching photorealistic. I think that's a function of like you look at the thing that you can't do and you say, how do they do that? Oh my goodness. Like, because your brain doesn't work that way. So
that makes sense.
You look at it and you say, oh, if only I could do that.
Yeah.
And the grass is always greener.
That makes sense.
And so with me, like my favorite artist growing up was Grant Wood. And like, it was the first time I got to go to a museum and see someone's artwork that was like, where I'm looking right at the painting that they did.
Yeah.
And just got to see all of the Grant Wood artwork, American Gothic. And
shout out to Mom and Dad. We lived in Omaha, and like for some reason they had a Grant Wood exhibit, which was like, I know you were already a fan before, but like we actually went to go see American Gothic in person. We saw it. Yeah,
and he was neighboring Iowa, and so he's an Iowa artist. But yeah, they happened to have it in Lincoln. We got to go out to Lincoln and got to see the paintings in person, and just you see the color in it, and like the shape. And his artwork is so cartoonish, and especially like his landscapes, like Stone City, Iowa, which is one of my favorite paintings. And just the way that everything is curved, and there's no straight line in it at all. And the colors are so vibrant. And it's funny
I will say that I do see that in yours. So I guess that is something that, in a weird way, you've kind of extrapolated into your style.
Right. When I do colors, so like I'm becoming more known for like my black and white portraits.
Yeah.
But when I do colors, I'll always be like, oh, I'm going to do this one kind of moody. I'll tell my wife, I'm like, I'm doing this one. I'm going to do this one kind of moody, and it's going to be kind of like muted colors. And then it comes out like this like neon thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh crap, I better put some filters on this or something, because like it's meant to be like moody, but like I always go pull from the markers, and I always end up pulling out like the most vibrant color possible.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm gonna stop you there. Question: do you think that has anything to do with growing up in Grandma's house?
Probably. Probably.
Which no one's gonna get except for our family. But my grandma has basically random shapes on the wall, and they're all different colors: blue, orange, red. It's like super like interesting. Like the wall is. It's. I mean, it's
That's
absurd.
100% why like a lot of the comment on my background is that they're too busy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That
100%.
that wall. Yeah. So okay. So Grant Wood, obviously, which I knew Grant Wood would be one of them. There's another one. I'm not sure if he's still on your.
And then like honestly, Mucha was huge. I look at like he would do the same thing as I do. Like you trick the person into like looking at this
Yeah.
piece because of this beautiful, curved woman in the front, and then the more you look in the
Yeah.
background, the more detail you see, and like the more.
Oh yeah.
So like completely, that's a huge influence on me. Like the way I had this huge Mucha art book, and I would just like flip through it, and I started seeing like these beautiful landscapes and these beautiful, really high detailed scenery in the background. And it's really only once you look past that front thing that gets you in
Yeah.
that you see all of that beautiful work. And so, and
Yeah.
it was something also with me, like being a sports artist and liking his artwork, is that he did all of his work commercially.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So
what I was
like
gonna. I was just thinking.
so like he wasn't doing his work for museums. He was doing his work for posters, for advertisement.
Like he did a lot. He did some of the like the old Moet,
Yep.
and like
And cigarette
cigarette
ads,
ads. Yeah.
and yep, Absent is like he a lot of his stuff was used for like plays and
He was like almost like the forefather of that like that style too, wasn't he? Like
yeah,
of like
oh
doing
yeah,
that.
yeah. Art. He was the first person really doing Art Nouveau on that level.
Yeah.
Using him and Grant,
Yeah.
and then like honestly, like looking at stuff like Caravaggio and like Michelangelo and seeing like how they did. Like I love a lot of the Renaissance and more Baroque paintings, like
Yeah.
because of how realistic they were. And so that's probably the closest to what I do that I like. Because like I wouldn't say my stuff is like Mucha, and I wouldn't say my stuff is like Grant Wood. I
Yeah.
take elements from
I can see the elements. Yeah.
from
Yeah.
them, but like I really try to make my stuff look really realistic and really dramatic. And like even like the one I was working on right now of Lamar Jackson, like the face highlights
Yeah.
in the cheeks and the chin and the nose. Like I look for reference to draw that I know I can make look kind of like say a Caravaggio that's like a dramatic pose and you
Yeah.
know
Dude, yeah,
so
some of the stuff you do, yeah, like some of these, the size of them, it's like is very impressive. But like even blown up to a bigger size would be super impressive. Like just like there is a lot of there's a lot of layers in just a flat for like being art. It's pretty impressive.
and but like my favorite, like when I talk about like my favorite artists, like those are like the ones that like kind of influence where I got. But
Yeah.
like a lot of my favorite artists are comic book artists because like
Oh yeah.
with
Yeah.
me reading comic books and stuff, and like they're fairly contemporary, and I've met a lot of them, but like their style is completely the opposite of anything that I do, and like I could never imagine doing anything like they do it. So
Yeah, that's like a respect thing just among like your peer,
yeah,
like a peer. Like you're like I respect that person does that, and it's awesome in that way. That's a and I know like yeah, you're a huge comic book like fan, so I know you would you'd definitely be a fan of that style for sure. And it's not something I think for a long time. I think it's something you thought you wanted to do, but like I think
oh yeah, like there was a large part of me that'd be like, oh, it'd be so great to do like a cover for Marvel and DC, and but like the more I look at like where that's going, it's going a lot more cartoony,
yeah,
and not it's going a lot less realistic.
yeah, for sure,
And so
makes
like
sense.
I would love to do it if they swing back around to like doing these like really realistic like hyper detailed covers, but like it's now comic books are going less from selling in on the magazine rack and they're selling digitally.
Yeah,
So the people who are buying the comics are like kind of already hooked in, kind of like with trading cards, where they're going to buy that next comic regardless of what's on the cover.
Yeah.
So they're spending less on like really detailed covers
Which makes sense.
and just throwing on like basically like a drawing of something that would be inside the cover. And
so there's not that differentiation. Okay, so I got 2 more questions for you. Actually, I have 1 more question for you, and then I'm going to have you actually. So I'll plant the seed. So my last question is, what question would you ask to my next guest? Because that's my thing. Since you're my first guest, I'm going to have my guest ask 1 question of the next guest, and I don't even know who the next guest is, so it doesn't matter. Just make it whatever, and we'll
probably Vin Diesel.
Figure it out. It's going to be Vin Diesel for sure. Like what? We're going to talk about Fast and Furious.
Yes. Someone asked a question about how it was working on Triple X.
Dude, just like the most random question. Just like,
was it like really cold? Like, did you need to wear that jacket? Like, that jacket was cool. I want that jacket.
Yeah, that was. So think about a question that you would ask if you could ask a question to anyone. And no, I'm literally going to ask the next person your question.
So it's going to be really awkward when I ask the Triple X question. Like, it's not Vin Diesel.
Yeah, probably. Okay. For sure. But okay, so
it's like your local dentist and
yeah, like he's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, no, yeah, it would be awkward as all get out. So last question I have for you is, what is something you wish you knew going into your profession that you learned along the way that you wish you had known up front? Like, which would either help you like get better or something that like faster or like something that like it would just be a good foundation to like have started from.
I wish I had started with markers.
Okay.
Like, just being an artist who now is like approaching 40 and like my hand is like really the limitation of my day. Like,
yeah,
how much portrait work I get done or how much work I get done is based on how long I can go before my hand is in bits.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I wish I didn't spend the first 10 years of my career working with color pencils and push and like working them down to the nubs and like
forcing.
Like the abuse I put on my hand in that first 10 years. I just wish that I had gone with markers earlier, because the amount of wear and tear you put on your hand is so much less. So I know they were around at the time. I just wish that like somewhere I had like stumbled upon them.
To do them. Yeah, it makes sense. So kind of speaking of that, going into it, I don't know how much you've talked about it, but I know your thumb has had some issues. You've like literally had to get like Toradol jammed into there, right?
Oh yes. So like my thumb, I have arthritis in my thumb.
Yeah.
I have carpal tunnel forming. Like thankfully not as bad as it could be. But then I have like also like a little bit of like a loose joint, so it's like a subluxation.
Speaking of this, I've never touched on this, and I've meant to touch on it multiple times. Both of us have a form of Ehlers-Danlos.
Yes. So
which I know I've heard in multiple podcasts recently, which is nice to just getting a little more awareness. We've lived with it our entire life. I have it to a much lesser degree than you do. You have it to a much higher degree. You are like Gumby when it comes to joints.
Oh yeah, my thumb. So my thumb is unstable.
Yes.
So like it doesn't. It pops in and out of joint. I have arthritis in there. I have the carpal tunnel. So I rotate between getting shots in the thumb joint, and they can't do it back-to-back times. And then in the wrist.
Ooh.
And so like this last time was in the wrist. But it's a cortisol steroid.
Right.
And so like they'll it helps. Like the last one really helped, and it bought me like a month of like pain-free drawing.
Yeah.
And there's certain gels that they can give you and medications they can give you to like limit the swelling and the
like you need a tiger balm for endorsement. Like,
right. That's the next endorsement that I'm looking for is like tiger balm.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like I know you put your body through some shit, so that's why like I definitely want to point that out because like I think that's super fucking impressive. Like it's the amount that you produce. I know it's not like a cool points kind of thing, but it's like the fact that like I know you wish you didn't have to, but like the fact that like you are so proficient while dealing with that is like something that's super impressive.
Well, and you get like tattooers back, like where you're like always hunched over.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so like definitely there's a bit of that. It's not nearly as bad.
The doctor said you need a backiotomy.
The doctor said I need a backiotomy, exactly. But like, it's definitely repetitive wear on like, if you had a machine that drew for you like all day for like 20 years,
Yeah.
like there'd be bits breaking down, and that's basically what I am. Is like,
Yeah.
you know,
That's funny.
repetitive wear.
Yeah, I mean, like I never really thought of that, but yeah, like even a machine would break down after.
Yeah, if you had like a machine that went from like here to here to here, and those like parts just kept drawing, like they would have break down over 20 years.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, yeah. You're basically like it's like an athletic pursuit. Essentially, you're putting yourself through this condensed form of like wear and tear. Yeah. So, well, cool. I appreciate you coming on to my podcast. This will not be the last time. I definitely think you will be back on at some point.
You say that now.
I literally got through 3 questions of the list that like I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
That's how great our conversation is. That's just how easy we flow. So my last question for you is, what question would you like to ask
Vin Diesel? How, like, I'm always, when I watch interviews, the thing that always makes me the most interested is when they ask the person, like, what made them like first want to, like, when was the point in their life that they first had a thought of doing what they ended up doing?
Okay.
So like if the person's a dentist, or if the person's an actor, or whatever they do,
Yeah.
what was the first point in your life where you like had like a touchstone or a moment where you thought, oh, I might want to do that, or I could do that?
Nice. Okay.
Like for me as an artist, like I remember like just drawing off of like like reading a comic book and then drawing like my own like comic book type thing, and just thinking, oh, it'd be so cool to do that one day. Or when we made like our own wrestling, we'd buy wrestling cards and then we would draw our own wrestling cards and make up our own little wrestlers and stuff, and like thinking, oh, it'd be so cool to do that one day.
Yeah.
Or we cut up the wrestling magazine and then we'd get cardboard and we would make our own designs of our own trading cards. Like literally we were doing at that point like what I ended up doing for a career.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
And it was just like, that was like the first moment in my head of like grandma's copying machine.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And like the stuff that we had in the house, and we would make our own like little trading cards.
Resourcefulness, yeah, and I think that's something you've so shown throughout your career as well, like a lot of resourcefulness.
Oh yeah, and so like, just I think that's what I would love to know. But anytime I listen to your podcast and listen to someone else, is just like, what got them at the very earliest point, even if it wasn't like, oh, at that point I knew I was going to be an artist. Like, what was the first time that you ever had a even inkling of a thought?
Yeah, like when was the seed planted?
Yes. Yeah.
That makes sense. That's a really good one. Yeah. So, well, that's gonna be the end of our podcast for today. I'm gonna
Vin Diesel's gonna be like, I looked in the mirror one day and I just flexed a little. I just knew it was right. I knew I had to put this face in front of a camera.
Vin Diesel, yeah, that dude. I mean, honestly, like that guy has like the weirdest career ever. Like between like the Iron Giant and like Groot to like Fast and the Furious 72 and like everything in between. Like you're like, that dude's got a strange career when you look at his work.
There's like no one else who could like put on a coat and just like slide down like a railing in Russia, and you're like, I'm in.
Yeah, like, dude, I mean, that dude still makes bangers. Like, people are like,
he does.
Vin Diesel's in that. I'll watch it. Like, you're like, okay, yeah, dude. Pitch Black was a legit.
Like, I know what I'm getting.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I don't know how many times I've watched Pitch Black. At least 700 times.
Just recently watched it again.
I don't know. Yeah, dude, it's yeah.
Sequel's a little iffy, but
like Vin Diesel and sequels, I would say aren't very good, but he's on number 7,000 of Fast and Furious, so we're good on that.
That's true.
Although I think the first one's still the best, but whatever.
Yeah.
But so that's gonna be the end of the podcast. Thank you, John, for coming. How can I lied. I do have one more question. How can everybody follow you on the social media platforms?
You can go to Najfotra, Art of John backwards, just NOJFOTRA _ artist on Instagram from there you can find everything else. Like,
all right. I think that
you can follow my Twitter.
I tried to follow you on Twitter. You have a blocked Twitter, not a blocked Twitter, private Twitter. Just so you know.
Oh,
your Twitter is private.
I gotta change that to public.
So you have to. I think you have to accept people. So I put a friend request in, whatever, so I can follow.
Very cool. Yeah,
So it's the same though. Naj Fotra _artist. Yeah, and I'm going to. I'll link out to both those as well. And I look forward to having you back on. And the last thing I wanted to do, because this is a very transparent podcast, and I don't think too many people do this, and I think more people should do this, especially like man to man. I love you, man.
I love you, brother.
Like, I don't say it enough, probably, and I'm going to say it in a public forum because I think more people should.
Definitely.
That you can love somebody that way, and fucking, I wouldn't be who I am without you. So
we grew up with that. It wasn't said as often, and we make sure we both say it to our kids.
Damn right.
It's both a huge thing that we both do because we didn't hear it a lot.
Yeah, and not to slam our parents. Our parents just
it's just they're not the not the way to say it. You know, they said it in other ways.
And I'll say our dad actually says it more than probably both of us now.
Yeah.
So I love you, man, and thank you for being on my podcast.
I love you anytime.
All right, guys. Catch you guys next time, and we'll see you on the other side for episode number 12 next time. All right. Peace.